Welcome back to this. I think we're going to be hitting an ending this time. We will likely hear my AC come on at some points, but I'm not. I won't apologize. It sucks. I won't apologize. Junpei, Clover, and Lotus leapt out of the laboratory, slamming the door shut behind them. All three collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Junpei's heart was pounding in his chest, and his whole body felt weak. He inhaled gulps of clear air, and with each one, he could feel his body begin to calm down. All right, let's go. They nodded to each other and started off down the hallway. Before long, they found a few new doors, but all of them were locked. Soon, they had tried all of the doors, but one. The final door sat in a corner of the hallway. Junpei grabbed the door handle and was about to pull it open when a voice cried out behind him. It was neither Clover nor Lotus, but he recognized it. There was no doubt. The voice belonged to Jumpy! He spun around. There, at the other end of the hall, Junpei saw human figures running toward him. 3 of them. June, Santa, and 7. They stopped short in front of Junpei and his companions, gasping for air. Hey! What are you guys doing here? What? But we didn't... Before he could finish, Clover spoke. Guys, could you come over here? She was standing near the end of a small hallway that branched off to the right. The rest of them ran over to her, curious as to what she'd found. There was something on the wall at the end of the hallway. A map of the ship's interior. It said C deck in the upper left corner. Most likely, they assumed it was a map for the floor they were on. Door 7 and Door 8, the map confirmed what they already knew. Both doors eventually led to the hallway where they had found themselves. In fact... Yeah, isn't that what I said? Till we find that 9 doors, 0 ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we can't open door 9. That's how the nunnery game works. Junpei looked at the map of the ship's interior again. As he looked more closely, his surprise and excitement gave way to weariness. One by one, the others saw what he'd seen. As one, they all moved back toward the door Junpei had only a moment ago been ready to open. He pulled the map of the ship's interior off the wall, put it in his pocket, and followed the other. The 6 of them stood in front of the door, arrayed in a semicircle. Santa stepped forward. He took hold of the door and spoke without looking back at the other 5. Ready? I'm gonna open it. They nodded their silent assent. With a deep breath, Santa threw open the door. And I bet, once we're through this door, they poured through the doorway and into the room. Even without looking around, each one of them knew where they were. They were just where the map had said they would be. The same room they'd been in not so very long ago. The tremendous central hospital room with empty beds from wall to wall. I see. I believe I understand what you're saying. The 6 of you split into 2 teams and went through doors 7 and 8. You solved the puzzles in the operating room and the laboratory, and then met one another in the hallway after opening your respective locked doors. He looked like anyone might after only just waking up, but it seemed that his brain was working as well as ever. And I can skip this part because I've seen it. We're all explaining where we were. Wait, this is new. Well, we saw each other again, and we ain't dead, so I say that's good enough. Anyway, I say we get out of this creepy old place. We found the key we need. The key? 7 smiled. Ain't that what I just said? talking about the Jupiter key. We found it in the operating room. Here. Oh, I see. This is just... They have to get the Jupiter key to me because I wasn't in the laboratory to get it. Someone had engraved a symbol very similar to a 4. I looked over at June, who nodded back. It had to be the Jupiter symbol, which any Sailor Moon fan would know. Everyone's giving all their keys to Junpei for reasons that would frankly be boring if we had to explain them. I might lose it. It's probably better if you hold on to it. You think this outfit has pockets? That way it won't be my fault if we lose it. Clever, Lotus. I felt slightly less than honored. Okay. The Earth key, which had been found in the laboratory. The Jupiter key, which Seven had just handed to Junpei. And the Saturn key card, which Lotus had just handed to Junpei. Junpei tucked the new keys into his pocket. June spoke up. Back into the skip zone. So now we're talking about where to go next. Wait. Okay. Let's go. The door opened and Ace, Clover, and Seven jumped in. So they're going through there to get to that door, I think. Where are we going? Everyone except Lotus seemed rather confused. Well, it would be a waste of time to just sit around, wouldn't it? Let me explain. I get it. We're gonna see if we can get anywhere interesting with the Jupiter key. If we're lucky, we might find Snake. We haven't found Snake. We found him before, and he was dead. Is he not dead this time? They were at the end of the hallway lined by blah blah who gives a fuck. We're going through the Jupiter key. Back to the beginning. Is there any reason we came back here? Of course there is a reason. Lotus just explained it. And now we're going to open these, and we're going to find the way to the final choice. June was probably afraid of the fact that we could only go down. Okay. 6th door. Oh no. They did find Snake. So we're theorizing what happened to Snake. And Clover won't talk for the rest of the game. Was Zero still on the ship with them? I now believe he is. I think Zero is one of us. When I said it was crazy, she got very sad. It's possible. But it made everybody else feel bad. You know what? And then the bell goes off, which means we only have 1 hour left. Or 2, I can't remember. The point is that the clock is ticking down. And it's time to decide. Because we're all going through a door. And the one door left is the 9 door. Lotus, would you chill? This time I want to go through. Wait. Door 1 is on A deck near the central staircase. Door 2 is on the bottom deck. It can be reached by taking the elevator to the bottom. Door 6 is on E deck and can be reached by taking the elevator near the central staircase down. And I want to go door 6. Now we're into things I haven't seen. So Junpei flipped open the piece of paper. It read, Junpei, door 6. Of course it did. He'd written it after all. That's a problem. June spoke barely above a whisper. I love finding writers' idiosyncrasies, but they all knew what she'd said. None of these teams will be able to go through the doors they want. Clover and I chose door 1. Lotus and I chose door 2. That's not enough people to open a numbered door, however. Digital routes don't match up either. We've got similar problems. Junpei and I want to go through door 6, but our digital route is 5. If we're gonna open that door, we need a 1. Damn. What are we going to do now? What are we going to do? Junpei crossed his arms and did his best to put his thoughts in order. The others followed suit, but with little result. Eventually, Clover broke the silence. Why don't Seven and Lotus go through door 1 with me? Her face was cold and flat, as was her voice, but her logic was sound. Seven and Lotus looked at each other. 7 plus 8 plus 4 is 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. The first problem resolved, Ace spoke up. What about me? Isn't that obvious? Wasn't one of the teams just complaining that they didn't have a 1? You mean I should join Santa's team? Clover nodded, her face still cold and emotionless. Her attitude and posture could not have been more different than the energetic girl of only a few hours before. No one seemed ready to contradict her. Her response was understandable, given the horrible situation in which she had found herself, but even so. I understand. I will go through door 6 then. If we do as Clover has suggested, we can all pass through a numbered door. No one will be left behind. This seems to be the most reasonable solution. 3 plus 6 plus 5 plus 1 equals 15. 1 plus 5 equals 6. 7, Lotus, what do you guys think? I don't have a problem with it. Me either. Alright then, we're good to go. Yes, we are. At last, Junpei and the other 6 persons had managed to separate themselves into 2 teams. Clover, 7, and Lotus headed to A deck, where door 1 was, near the main staircase. Junpei, June, Ace, and Santa, however, took the elevator to E deck. The ride to E deck was a silent one. All right, let's go. Santa's words jolted them to action, and they stepped out of the elevator into a long, straight hallway. Before long, they arrived in front of door 6. One by one, they put their palms over the red. With a soft electronic noise, it authenticated each of them. The door opened. Nope. Fortunately, the dead was located easily enough. This one had been placed quite close to the door they'd entered through. They gathered around it quickly and hurriedly placed their palms on it for authentication one by one. By one. 4 of them. It stopped. Yes, it stopped. The countdown had ceased, but Junpei's heart was still pounding in his chest like a frantic, thunderous drum. It felt as though it might shake itself up and out of his throat. He'd been through the doors 3 times before, but repetition had not dulled the experience. He was not anxious to find it dulled, however. He hoped to be free of the ridiculous game long before that happened. All right, let's go. With that attempt at good humor, Junpei took a deep breath and began to walk. He jogged down the stairs at the end of the hallway and found himself staring at a large door. It was a heavy thing made of iron and more than a little threatening. He took hold of the bar that served as its doorknob and shoved it down. The room beyond stopped him in his tracks. It was gargantuan and made entirely of metal, none of the accents of wood or tile he'd seen in the rest of the ship. This room was purely functional but utterly tremendous. Whoa, what the hell is this? Santa got out a few words before awe stole the rest of them. The rest were too stunned to offer anything more than gasps. It was easily the largest room they'd seen, and yet it was somehow closed and oppressive. The ceiling was at least 2 stories high, if not significantly more. It was easily several hundred feet across and appeared to stretch the entire width of the ship. In the center of that gargantuan room stood a massive, rounded building. Even from a distance, the sheer bulk of it was oppressive. Junpei could feel the room, the building, even the air pressing down on him. Junpei and the others were standing on the scaffolding that crisscrossed the whole area. The proper term was catwalk, Junpei thought, although that didn't seem particularly important. Alright, let's head downstairs. Nearby was a long iron staircase that made its way eventually to the floor beneath them. They moved around toward the opposite side of the massive building, following the catwalk. They hadn't said much as they walked, but as they approached the building, Ace suddenly spoke up. "This looks to be the steam engine room." The steam engine room? "Yes, the thing that looks like a cross-section of a mushroom is the boiler. Do you see the 3 round doors near the bottom? Coal is put into those and burned, which heats the water, producing steam. The same thing that drives a steam engine. This one is simply somewhat larger." I see. Even if Ace was right, the boiler was boiling nothing as they approached it. The entire room was as silent as the grave. Suddenly, Junpei heard a noise behind him. He turned just in time to see June collapse to her knees. "Hey, what's wrong? Are you alright?" He dashed toward her and wrapped his arm around her shoulder to steady her. Just like at the beginning. It was then that he noticed. You're really warm. Is your fever coming back?" Yes, it probably is. But I'm fine. Please don't worry about me. I just need to rest, and I'll be fine." Her voice was weak and forced, and it said a great deal more than her words did. Junpei carried her to the nearest wall and propped her up against it. She let her head fall back against the wall, as if she no longer had the strength to support it, and drew a ragged breath. Her eyes were empty, as if she was having trouble focusing them, and even speaking seemed difficult for her. Junpei felt his hand ball itself into a fist and clench tight, his knuckles whitening. He had to find a way out, and quickly. He turned and looked at Ace and Santa in turn. They might not have shared the depth of his emotion, but they certainly shared his concern. He didn't need words to express the urgency of their situation. "Alright, let's get started. Hang in there, June. I'm gonna get you out of here real soon." She managed a small nod before leaning back to rest her head on the wall. Okay. So, is it multiple floors? Let's see. Oh, I can, Nope. Doesn't help me. So this is where you put coal into the furnace. That's right. I had a look at it earlier, but it's rusted shut, I'm afraid. Perhaps you should check the other side. What side am I on? A tunnel. It goes all the way across the ship. And a little door. It's a square hole. Nothing in here. Ah, look at the back wall there. I can see 3 small slots, terminals for some sort of connector, perhaps? You mean you think we're supposed to plug something in there? Perhaps. A golden gear. Doesn't look like it was always golden like this. Well then, I imagine it was prepared especially for this game. Oh good. This gear is rusty, but it looks like it's still pretty sturdy. Looks like there's a door over there in this tunnel. The belt over there must deliver the coal, which is then picked up and thrown into this door. The door appears to be welded shut, however. Look, Ace. It's some kind of snowman's secret meeting. Those are just bags full of sand. You use them as a counterweight when you're lifting something with a pulley system. Man, you're too serious. There's a pair of wooden boxes here. There's nothing in them. Okay. There's a pillow like this on the other side. Yeah, you're right. Wait, there was there? Oh. Everything's welded shut. Not these. What's in them? I believe this opening is for fueling the furnace. If we were to put some coal in here and ignite it, then the steam engine might start working. It's certainly possible. Huge bronze gear. This has to be important. So, golden? Bronze? Silver. That's a silver gear. Think it's made of pure silver? No way. Silver's way too soft to use for a gear. It's gotta be steel or iron gear that's been coated with silver. Shouldn't have called it a silver gear then. Shouldn't have got your hopes up. Were you thinking you'd haul this thing back? Nah, but I think 7 could probably carry it, don't you? Stairs stretch from the catwalk to the boiler. Alright, let's go upstairs. We aren't going to get anywhere with the pile of boxes here. What the hell's in these things anyway? They're way too heavy to move. Yeah, that's the exit. Kind of pointless to go back, huh? One of the doors in the furnace. There's an A on it. There's a circular wheel in the center of the door. Let's give that sucker a twist. Well, it's noisy, but it opens. And it's totally pitch black in there. We should, go in there. Alright, let's go. This looks just like the door we went into. Where are we? We must be on the other side, yes? Which would put us directly above the conveyor belt. At any rate, we should keep moving. There's a great deal we've yet to investigate. Catwalk. Whole bunch of boxes in the way, we can't move. A door called C that brings us to more boxes we can't move. But boxes, don't think we can go over there. Okay, now I'm on the other side of those boxes. And now I can reach this thing. Alright, let's give this wheel a spin. What? That's weird. I don't feel any resistance. Ah, shit. Oh, it came off. Good job, genius. You broke it. I didn't break it. It broke all by itself. What is this? Given its placement, this must unlock the door to the left. There's a weird indentation on the top of this thing. Think that means you have to insert something here? Yes, I would imagine so. Could it be this thing? 3 circles laid on top of each other in a triangle. What does this look like? It just looks like a thing. Wheel that seems to be part of the arrow. There's some pegs in the back that look like they go into the holes on the winch. Nothing but sand in them. There are boxes. Nothing. But it won't move at all. How about this one? It's something different. 2 sliders at the left, one down. I move the slider down, nothing happens. Maybe it needs to be prepared somehow. It did something somewhere else. Let's try this one. Second slider doesn't work. First slider doesn't work. Oh, so A, B, and C are like that, huh? Looks like that's the pipe. Coal must come out of this pipe onto the conveyor belt. Great deal of coal in that tank. And get the wheel back on. There's a couple of posts in the back of it that look like they fit into holes on the winch. No good, these little shafts are too small for this. It's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway. If that's the case then. That wheel wasn't originally part of this winch. And that means it's a part of something else. What else is there for it to be a part of? This is the other winch. Sweet, it's a perfect fit, like they were made for each other. Not shaky at all. Good. Should be able to turn this now. Good work, Junpei. We should be able to haul up the wooden blah 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 blah. Yes, I get it. I know what I'm doing and I want to do it. Device in the box. Might as well turn the wheel. What happens if I do this? This wheel only turns to the left. That means we can't reel up that rope. Yeah, we can only let the rope down. Interesting. I don't think that will be a problem. We will simply need to go downstairs after letting the wooden box down. Good thing. No sweat. I believe the box has reached the floor. Yeah. He stuck his head out over the side of the catwalk and looked down. The box that had only recently just hung below the catwalk now sat on the floor. It had come to rest near the end of the tunnel that covered the conveyor belt, near where June had collapsed. Junpei could see her, still leaning against the wall as if she barely had the strength to sit up. Even from so far away, it was not difficult to see that she had not improved. He almost thought he could see heat rising from her body. He doesn't seem to be improving. Ace's expression was inscrutable, but he'd said what they had all been thinking. Of course not. She's not going to just get better right away, you know? It'll take time. He tried desperately to convince himself that what he'd said was true. What could be causing this, I wonder? Illness, perhaps? Nah, it's gotta be exhaustion. Santa's response was confident and certain. She gets dropped into some weird-ass ship, forced to play some messed-up game. If you think about it, it's a lot weirder that we aren't freaking out just like her, you know? So you're saying we're abnormal? Yeah. We're just running around this room solving all these puzzles like it's just business as usual. How the hell could you call that normal? We're just guinea pigs. Santa snorted in disgust. A guinea pig? You mean like a lab rat? You mean we're being used for some sort of experiment? Is that what you're saying? Dunno. But does seem like a possibility, you know? With that, he turned and walked away from the winch. Junpei and Ace followed him. You know, speaking of experiments, here we go. Santa suddenly stopped. There was this experiment some scientists did with rats. First, they took a squarish C-shaped tank and filled it with enough water that the rats could drown. The tank has two exits, A and B. Exit A is pitch black, so dark even a rat can't see anything. Exit B, however, is electrified, which means the rat can't leave through it. So what would a rat do if it was put in this situation? Which exit would the rat choose? There was a moment of silence after Santa posed that question. Then Ace responded. B, of course. The rat has no way of knowing that exit B is electrified. Exactly. The rat goes to exit B. Of course, like I said, it's electrified, which means the rat can't get out that way. So after a lot of trial and error, the rat finally finds exit A. Can't say that's very interesting or relevant. It's simply the story of a laboratory experiment. You're right. It isn't very interesting. Yet. These scientists repeated this experiment over and over, using hundreds of different rats over several generations. This produced some surprising results. With each generation of rats, they took less time to find the correct exit. Eventually, a rat was put in the tank who instantly chose exit A without even attempting to go to exit B. But even that wasn't the most impressive thing. The same experiment was conducted in another laboratory, far from the original one, with the same results. No, on second thought, the results weren't really the same. The rats in the second experiment began the trials with significantly faster times than the first rats in the initial experiment. These rats were not related to the rats used in the first experiment and had never even come in contact with them, and yet they all easily found their way to exit A, as though they already knew. What did it mean? Are you suggesting something like telepathy? They were passing information to one another through some undetectable medium. Ace looked skeptical. Santa snorted at him. How the hell would I know? I'm not any kind of scientist. I don't know what made him do that. But I do know that story's true. If you've got another explanation, I'd sure love to hear it. Come on, let's get going. There's still a lot here we haven't checked out. And we gotta get the hell out of here before June passes out. Without waiting for a response, he turned around and started walking. Junpei, however, wasn't quite ready to leave the topic alone. Hey, wait. There's something I want to ask you. Santa stopped and turned around. Why did they use that tank for the experiment? Huh? Well, I mean, it seems like you could conduct the same experiment without the water. They could have just used a dry box, you know? If they needed to motivate the rats to escape, they could have, I don't know, put some bait by exit C or something. I mean, did they really have to make it so the rats can drown? Santa gave a grim bark of a laugh. You know, the word emergency comes from the same root as the word emerge. You ever think about that? Huh? Well, an emergency is something urgent, often something dangerous. And to emerge means to sort of come out or appear or rise out of something. So what's going to emerge in an emergency? Inspiration. Inspiration? Yeah. Think about it. When the chips are down, either you crack or your mind focuses and pulls up what you need. So in an emergency, your real potential emerges. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. That's why the rats had to drown. They had to be in danger. There had to be an emergency for inspiration to emerge. Junpei suddenly felt cold. The back of his head was aching. His stomach felt strange. Well, back to it, folks. Wait. Oh, that's right. Alright, for the listener, I've been gone for hours. This is not that pair of boxes. This is control panel for something. Boom. Control panel for this. Maybe this hole is where the control panel goes. Only one way to find out. In you go. Good junk. Dude, you did it. Everything looks alright. Okay, but what do we do now? Why don't you press the button next to it? The orange one. Yes. Alright, I'll do that. Pushing. Sweet, all sorts of lights are lighting up on this thing. And oh, yes, I think I just heard something turn on. Oh? What's that? What happened? Junpei, look! The conveyor belt's moving. The conveyor belt. Ooh. I guess it's done moving now. Still a bunch of coal on the belt, though. Looks like a bunch of it got dumped off at the end of the belt into that wooden box where we found the control panel. Coal? Coal, huh? I'll take a box filled with coal. It's coal. It's shiny and black and coal-like. Okay, there was a place that we thought to put the coal. How did I get there? A tunnel. It goes all the way across the ship. Here it is. It's here. Open. Can I put coal in here? The hole that'll let us put coal in it. Maybe if we can put some coal in there. Let's do it. Alright, no more coal left in the wooden box. Nothing. Great. I guess I should have expected that. Why would just throwing coal into a cold furnace do anything? Junpei, explain it to me again. You're planning to stoke the furnace with coal, which will heat the water stored up there and make steam, which will then drive something else. Am I correct? In other words, you want to generate enough pressure with the steam to power the turbine. And drive the steam engine, right? Yeah, I guess that's the gist of it. Well, in that case, this isn't enough coal. This furnace is enormous, so we're gonna need a whole hell of a lot more coal than this. Very well then. If the three of us work together, then we should manage to fill it much faster. I want to help too. Man, I totally didn't even see June walk up. Are you feeling up to that? Yes. Yeah, right. You look like you're one stiff breeze away from falling over, June. I think you'd better rest some more, alright? But no arguing. You need your rest, so you just stay there. We'll handle this. Okay, I understand. Alright, time for some manly work. Just a super normal thing. Just it's a lot of work. Alright, I think this should be sufficient. Alright, now we just gotta light it. Junpei, hand me your matches. What makes you think I have matches? I see. Then how are we gonna light it? Perhaps there's a device nearby that will allow us to remotely ignite the core. Let's take a look, shall we? Some sort of an ignition device, huh? Is there any way that I would still have the matches from the first camera? I don't think so. Nope, not that one. Can't figure out. Take a look at the other side. Oh, I see. Well, I don't. Golden gear, rusty gear. Don't see anything on this side that might ignite this thing. Oh, you know what I do know? Wooden boxes. I already looked through those. There's nothing there. Okay. The barrel under the stairs. Unfortunately, it's empty. Okay. What about this thing? Slider is locked in place. It won't move. Well, how about this one? I think it might be. It probably is. I think this is how we might ignite the furnace. That means that if we move that thing down... Alright, let's do it. Here we go. Good show. Hey, Junpei, Ace, look at this. There's big gears turning under the boiler here. They turned and... Thank you, Fletcher. Gears. They're spinning. What the hell are you guys waiting for? Let's start looking. Alright, let's start with gold. What's it? Ooh. Gold disc. Bunch of red, blue, and black lines. The gold disc. It has a number of lines engraved on it. I can make out 3 colors here, red, blue, and black. I wonder what they mean. Silver disc. Same deal. And bronze disc. Bronze disc. Silver disc. The red ones really stand out. They do. Why? Pretty sure the gold disc was on the bottom left. This thing unlocked. Maybe. Put those 3 discs we found into this. Nothing's happening. Maybe you're, I don't know, putting them in the wrong places. Perhaps you have them facing the wrong direction. Perhaps you should rotate the discs to make some of the lines connect to one another. Perhaps you should engage in a puzzle. know it's like that. Kaboom. Make a star pop. Yes, the door's open. Given the circumstances, Junpei's happiness was certainly understandable. Ace seemed to share his excitement. All right, Junpei. Why don't you go get June now? Santa and I will keep an eye on this door. Santa snorted. Why do we need to do that? Even if it shuts, we know how to solve the puzzle now. We could just open it again. Well, I suppose that's true. Shall all three of us go and collect June then? Nah, I'm cool. I'll let Junpei handle it. Phil seemed irritated by something, however, and sat down on the stairs petulantly. So you're only interested in being contrary? Ace sighed with the air of a long-suffering parent. All right, I'll go get June. I'll be right back. He gave a quick nod to Ace and Santa and dashed off down the stairs. Before long, he was back on the first floor next to the conveyor belt, and June. As he drew closer, she stood up slowly. Are you okay? He did his best to sound calm and nonchalant, but there was no hiding the genuine concern in his voice. Yes, I'm fine now. I'm sorry I made you worry. June blushed. He wasn't sure if she was embarrassed or still feverish. Just to make sure, he reached out and put his hand against her forehead. Good. You're feeling a lot better. She was feeling far less warm than she had earlier, but still wasn't down to what seemed normal to her. Are you sure you're all right? He had to be sure. He had to ask her if she was sure. June gave him a look. Oh, you're such a warrior, Jumpy. Oops. I mean, worrier. June giggled. He wasn't sure if she just made a joke or not, but seeing her smile again made Junpei feel at ease. She was well enough to smile and laugh, and she really was feeling much better. He gave her a friendly poke on the forehead. Let's go. Go where? Oh, right, I didn't tell you. We got the exit open, so... Great! Let's go. June clasped her hands and nodded urgently. Slow. As they walked back toward the exit, Junpei noticed Santa sitting on the stairs. He was, however, holding something in his right hand and staring at it with a strange expression. Junpei and June slowed down and finally stopped in front of him. What are you looking at? Santa answered without looking up, his voice quiet. It's a photo. It's my sister. Sister? Santa, you've got a sister? Santa simply nodded. Yeah. Kid was as cute as a button. June cocked her head, confused. She was only about an inch tall then? Santa glared at her. Sorry. I guess an inch is a little large for a button. Probably more like a half inch? Santa didn't smile or laugh. He simply turned back to his picture and spoke. I was her Santa Claus. This sudden revelation took Junpei by surprise. He had no idea what Santa meant. He glanced at June, who shook her head. She didn't know either. We didn't have parents. They bought it in an accident when we were still kids. So I had to be like her dad. And that meant I bought her Christmas presents every year. On Christmas Eve, I'd leave the present next to her pillow. And the next morning, she'd come running into my room with this big smile. Look, look, Santa left me a present. Santa got me that doll I really wanted. I'm so glad he got the letter I wrote. I was the one who told her to write those letters. I'd say, write down something you want and mail it to Santa. The address I gave her was somewhere in Northern Europe that doesn't exist. Anyway, she'd write the letter and stamp it and send it out. And then a few days later, it'd show up back in our mailbox marked address unknown. I'd open the letters before she figured out they'd been sent back. Once I had the letter, I'd go around to a couple stores with some money I'd saved up over the year and buy her the stuff she'd asked for. Took a lot of saving, but I managed to buy her presents every year. Junpei was silent. He could think of nothing to say. June looked down, uncomfortable. The wall next to him suddenly groaned. Either he hadn't heard the sound or didn't care. Santa kept talking. But one year, her letter was different. She didn't write a list of toys she wanted or anything like that. Instead, it said, I don't want any presents this year. Instead, I want you to make my wish come true. My wish is that we'll be happy like this for a really, really long time. But I couldn't make that wish come true. Some Santa I am. Santa looked sad. Junpei had never seen him look sad before. He wasn't sure he liked it. Junpei decided it was probably best not to ask Santa any more questions. But what happened? June glanced up at Santa quickly as she spoke. He answered, but only with an effort. She died. She was killed 9 years ago. Huh? There was nothing Junpei could say. His heart felt like a great lump of lead. June bit her lip and looked away. Her face was pale. All right, let's go. Santa stood up suddenly, his downcast demeanor gone. He shoved the picture back in his pocket and headed back up the stairs, taking them two at a time. Junpei and June looked at one another. There was nothing they could think of to say. Hey, what are you two doing? Let's get moving. Come on. Santa's voice echoed across the room from above them. They nodded and followed him quickly up the stairs. Ace was waiting for them at the top. He was leaning against the handrail. He looked very tired. The door had shut, but it wasn't cause for concern. Junpei quickly solved the disc puzzle a second time, and the door opened once again. In single file, they walked through. After walking for nearly 15 feet, they found themselves in front of a metal door. It opened easily enough, and they passed through it as well. A new room stretched out before them. Is this a warehouse? No, I believe this is the cargo room. This must be where they store all of this vessel's freight. Freight. There are wooden crates everywhere. I wonder how old they are. Junpei, Ace, and June had stopped unconsciously, pausing to take in their new surroundings. Santa's voice broke through their momentary trance. Well, we probably ought to start with finding the exit, right? Let's get going. Trying to look and see the stuff in the map that I want to take a look at. What's this thing? A bunch of bags here. Wonder what's in them. Oh dear. It is a card with a headshot with Santa's face printed on it. What's that? It's a card. It has a headshot on it. A headshot? Yeah. I'm not really sure what purpose this could possibly serve. A box. Nothing inside. These crates are quite large. They seem to be tied to one another with sturdy straps. Okay, another card with another person's head. Crates are smaller. Oh boy. Do you ever think about how crates would reproduce? These crates look like they're the children of the other bigger crates. It's a weird thing to say, Junpei. A card with Seven's headshot. Oh boy. A card with Money's headshot. A card with Mai. Cracked open. Great. Okay. Stop searching boxes. Message received. Clover. Snake. I'm up there, but we can get over the fence. Junpei, think you could go take a look at that? No thanks. I've got a bad feeling about it. Pussy. Okay, fine. I'll go. Please be careful, Sam. Yeah, but just in case. What's it gonna do with that screw? I don't see what throwing a screw at a fence is good. Holy shit. Ah. Huh? This... Oh man. There's electricity running through that fence. Looks like it. Then we can't get to the other side. Well, we could jump off those crates, but we wouldn't be able to get back. And that's not a thing? Okay. Oh. And there's stairs. They go up 3 stories. What are you waiting for, Junpei? Whatever, I'm going. The only door... So this is the exit. Of course, it's locked. Is it an electronic lock? No, just a keyhole right under the doorknob. So to open this door, we've got to find the key that fits that keyhole. Okay, keep going up and look at this. What's this? The monitor's off. Got a green switch here and a red one, with some kind of lever. None of them seem to do anything though. Maybe the power's off? Yeah, maybe. There's a single green light on the bottom though. That means there's some power. Take a little shutter. Maybe it'll open if we do something. What's gonna come out of it if it does open? Yeah, like I'd know that. 6 holes. They look like jacks for a headphone cable. Jacks, huh? Maybe if we put something in them? Yeah, something might happen. Okay, but I don't have anything. Several lights here with numbers from 1 to 9. Only the light with a 9 on it is lit. Very much do not have enough information. That's the entrance. This is all that. 1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push 7 cards, right? 1, 2, 6, 7. Oh wait, who am I missing? Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. I don't have Lotus, and I don't have Ace. I think we can get over the fence by jumping on those crates. Huge electric current. If you do that, you won't be able to get back. Well, if I can move some of those crates over there. Are you sure you can move them? What if they weigh too much? Then what are you gonna do? Oh yeah, haven't thought of that. Huh. Well, there is something that I haven't looked at because I've been too scared because it looks too much identifiably like a puzzle. It's locked. We need the key. All the boxes have numbers in. Do they? Oh. Ace bent down and picked up something that had been sitting next to the box. Junpei, take a look at this. Cards. And... wait. Just, right? So still no Ace. Some numbered boxes and cards with pictures of all of us. Does that mean we need to collect the cards we don't have? I look here. Nothing in the bag anymore. Where would there be? I took it off. Some sort of liquid in the barrels. Boxes, something in these boxes. Oh ho! Ho ho! Alright. Do this. They finally collected all 9 picture cards. All that remained was to insert the cards into the slots at the front of each box. Junpei stared at the cards in his hands. Ace peered over his shoulder at them. You know which card goes in which box, yes? Junpei gave him a look. Yeah. Of course I do. It's really obvious. You just match our numbers to the numbers on the box. So for instance, the card with the picture of Ace on it goes into box 1. The card with the picture of Snake on it goes into box 2, and so on. Ah, I see. Junpei thought he might have imagined it, but could have sworn Ace stiffened. Just then, Junpei heard a noise. He spun around just in time to see June collapse in front of the fence. June, are you okay? She did not respond. Junpei spun back around to face Ace. I'm sorry, I gotta go check on her. You do the box thing, alright? Just put the cards in the boxes. I'm counting on you. He shoved the cards into Ace's hands and ran off toward June. Are you alright? What happened? Junpei called out to her as he ran. As he arrived, June was climbing to her feet with Santa's help. I'm sorry. I'm fine. I just tripped. Don't give me that. Now's not the time. But it's true. I tripped over a box. Junpei put his palm on her forehead. Her temperature was much the same as it had been the last time he checked. She wasn't hot like she'd been before, but she was still warm. Her fever wasn't completely gone. I saw her fall. I think she really did just trip on something, you know? Junpei would have been more willing to agree if June hadn't needed quite so much help standing up. Still, to fall down like that. I think she's probably still a little messed up. June was doing her best to busy herself brushing dust off of her dress. Her smile looked a little embarrassed and her face was a bit flushed. But she did look a great deal better than she had. Still. Alright, well, let's get out of here as fast as we can so we can get you to a hospital. Oh, I don't think it's anything that serious. I just need a little medicine and some sleep and I'll be fine. Medicine? Medicine, huh? Well, if we could get in touch with anyone outside, I'll bet Ace could swing that for you. Easy. Ace? Wait, that's Junpei. Why Ace? Huh? Don't you know? He's the president of a pharmaceutical company. Cradle Pharmaceutical is the name, I think. Their flagship product is an anesthetic drug called Soparil. Soparil? Soparil. Junpei couldn't shake the feeling that he'd heard about Soparil before. Santa continued. Soparil. Soparil is an anesthetic that is gaseous at room temperature, similar to nitrous oxide. It takes only a few seconds to spread, and even a small amount is very effective. For these reasons, it found widespread acceptance with police and military forces in numerous countries. It was an effective crowd suppressant and room clearer, and is practical, ethical, and humane. Developed 6 years prior, it was made from the extracts of several different roots. It became popular almost as soon as it was made public, with many governments placing large orders. Demand for Soparil skyrocketed, and as it did, so did the stock of Cradle Pharmaceutical. Why do you know all this? Santa's information was interesting, but Junpei couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. Santa's reply was blunt and simple. I heard it from the old man himself. From Ace? When? By the number 4 door, at the central stairway, when we were searching the second classroom. Remember how Snake 7 and you went to door 5? I asked him what he did for a living, and he said he ran his own company. After that, we just started talking, and I guess it just came up, you know? Are you worried about something? No, nothing. As he spoke, Junpei looked over toward Ace. He seemed to be having difficulty with the 9 boxes. What the hell is he doing? He turned back to June and Santa. June, don't push yourself, all right? Yes. Santa, could you take care of her? Sure. He gave them both a short nod and then turned and headed toward Ace. What are you doing? Ace's back was to him as Junpei approached. The older man turned around to look at him. His face was pale and covered in sweat. What happened? Nothing. My vision has gotten rather blurry. I think perhaps because of fatigue. I can't see very well at the moment. What can't you see well? These pictures. Ace held the cards out to Junpei, splayed out in the shape of a fan. I don't care to admit it, but I may be developing presbyopia. Growing old is a difficult thing. He made the best attempt he could at a self-deprecating smile, but his face was flushed and his lips were pale and drawn. At any rate, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm feeling awfully tired, so if you don't mind, I'd like to rest for a bit. He shoved the cards into Junpei's hands and walked quickly away. Junpei looked at him quizzically. How could simply looking at cards have tired him out? Junpei looked down at the cards in his hands. All of the pictures were quite clear and each person easily recognizable. Was Ace's vision truly so bad? But if it wasn't, what had made him so uncomfortable? That was when Junpei remembered what he'd heard from Lotus much earlier. Prosopagnosia. Well, put simply, it means a condition where the mind can't distinguish between human faces. In other words, my face would look the same as Clover's or even yours. So they can't remember faces, which is how most people recognize each other. That means that people with prosopagnosia have trouble recognizing even people they're close to. Maybe he's got prosopagnosia. Junpei took another look at Ace. He sat at the base of the stairs, looking quite depressed. It was reasonable, of course, that he'd feel that way. If he really did have prosopagnosia, there was no doubt that it was a depressing and painful experience. Still, Junpei didn't feel like patting him on the shoulder and telling him everything would be alright would help that much. Still, Junpei felt perhaps it was best he keep Ace's condition to himself, at least for the time being. Oh well. Doing his best to clear his mind for the task at hand, he turned back toward the boxes. It was time to solve the puzzle of the 9 boxes. 9 cards with pictures and 9 boxes. Junpei stared at them for a moment and then began. Ace's card went into box number 1, Snake's into box 2, Santa's into box 3, Clover's into box 4, Junpei's into box 5, June's into box 6, Seven's card into box 7, Lotus's into box number 8, and finally the 9th man's card went into box number 9. As soon as he inserted all of the cards, all 9 box lids popped open at once. He peered inside. In each box was a single pin. They looked a little like sewing pins, but much thicker. Junpei collected them all quickly and shoved them into his pocket. Okay. I have an idea of where these go. What I don't have is an idea of where they go specifically. Alright. There's 6 holes here. And it looks like the pins I just found would be a perfect fit for it. Ones you found in the 9 boxes, right? Well, why don't you try it? Alright, let's see what happens. I think 2, 4, and 6 should go here on the top part, and 3, 5, and 7 on the bottom part. Why do I think that? Well, some of them lit up. Yeah, 3 and 6. I wonder if there's some kind of rule that determines which lights go on. Well, I put the 2, 4, and 6 pins on the top part, and the 3, 5, and 7 pins on the bottom. You think? You think maybe it's the digital route? The digital route. 2, 4, and 6 equals 12. The digital root of 12 is 3. Therefore, light 3 turns on. 3, 5, and 7 is 15. Digital root of 15 is 6. Therefore, light 6 turns on. Makes sense, right? I see. The lights that match the digital root of the pins inserted on the top and lower parts will light up. So that's how it works. Well, there's one other thing I'd like to check. If he wants to try, he's certainly welcome to. So, he'd put the 1, 2, and 3 pins on the top and the 6, 7, and 8 pins on the bottom. Oh. They turned off. 6, 7, and 8 equals 21. Digital root of 21 is 3. Therefore, light 3 turns off. 1, 2, and 3 is 6. Digital root of 6 is 6. Therefore, light 6 turns off. I get it now. The digital root for the pins you insert is the same as the number on the lights that are lit. Those lights turn off. Yeah, looks like that's the trick. Alright, now we know how it works. You want to give it a try? What, you mean you know what we're supposed to do with these lights? Well, no, but I figure we could try and see if we can turn them all on, you know? I figure something's gotta happen if we can manage that. Turn on the lights, huh? Okay, Junpei, let's make sure we know how this works, alright? Pick one of the holes, then pick one of the pins, and insert it into the hole. Keep it up until all 6 holes are filled. Once all the holes are filled, the lights with the number that correspond to the digital root of the pins in the upper and lower parts will turn on. If a digital root corresponds to a light that's already on, that light will be turned off. The goal is to turn all the lights on. Alright, let's do it. I have thus far not gotten good at this. Okay, it doesn't lock in until you do all 6. So 7, 8 is 15, 6, 2, 1, 6. Then okay, I can do this. Wait, can I not remember any of the doors? That is a kind of wild card. 7. No, it's be 3 and 8. Maybe I did get okay. Let's do 3 and 4. Wait. 3, 1. As far as the 6 is 12. There we go. But I was doing 3. Fuck. Here we go. 9 and an 8. 3 and 5 and 9. And then I need a 5. $14. That would be 14. Yes! All the lights are on and the shutters opened up. Hey, does that mean... Yeah, we gotta do it again. Man, I thought I was doing so well. Okay, so we've got 9 holes. And there's an F up above them. I don't know what the F means, but I do know one thing. What's that? This time there are 9 holes. so we need to insert 9 pins. And that's boring. Why don't you just try it, alright? Wait. I don't want to try it, I want to check something. I didn't go to the kitchen this time, so I didn't learn the thing about hexadecimal code, so I don't know what F means. But I just gotta try it. You think maybe F means 15? 15. Yeah, 15 and base 10 is F in hex, right? You're right, yeah, that's gotta be it. Alright, let's give this one more shot. I don't have the document. Where didn't I have that document? Now I'm thinking, because 9 is such a wild card. Right. None of these are right. I'll add up to 15. Not digital root. 9 would be the wild card if it was digital root. Wait, I literally had this same puzzle in Onimusha. There we go. All pins inserted. All lights lit. You guys, I cannot stress this enough, microphone. That exact puzzle also exists in the video game Onimusha Warlords that I'll probably also put up here. Looks like there's electricity going to the monitor on top now. Alright, let's see if we can activate the device on top. Green button, a red button, and a lever. I wonder what these do. I think this might help. What the hell is this? Where did you find this? What is that? Where'd you find it? I found it when you were messing around with the pinholes. It looks like instructions for this thing. According to what it says here, this thing's a remote control for that. That. Oh. That machine over there. Apparently it's called the... sorry. Beg your pardon. So what are we supposed to do with the Pushmaster 5000? See the coffin over on top of the crates? Yeah? Don't you want to know what the deal is with that? I do. You want to check it out? Yeah! Alright, how do you think we're gonna get there? Well, there were some crates on the right side of the fence that someone piled up. Stairs. Maybe if we make a path to the coffin from there. How would we do that? Line up the crates, I guess. Yeah, that sounds about right. I guess this is just another one of Zero's puzzles. Yeah. Anyway, let's give it a shot. Oh, looks like the Pushmaster 5000 runs off a battery. So to keep it from using up its energy too fast, it's been programmed so it'll only start moving once its path has been completely programmed in. Alright, I'll keep that in mind. New material has been added to the fire screen. The monitor shows a top-down view of the area where we can move the machine. Once I want to send my orders to the Pushmaster 5000, I just pull the lever. Can I look at the monitor? Or do I have to pull the lever? Yeah, that's the reset button. And this is the return button. So I want to activate the program. Pull the lever. I want to activate the program. There's a limit on the battery, alright? Battery dies after 50 moves. At least, that's what it says in the manual. 50 moves, huh? Keep in mind the Pushmaster 5000 can't move the heavy metal crates, okay? Got it. Instructions for operation. When a square adjacent to the Pushmaster 5000 is touched, the Pushmaster 5000 will move to that square. If there's a crate in the way, the Pushmaster will push up to a single crate, move the crates appropriately and efficiently, and fill the yellow areas. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, I'm making some plans. So I can't do that. Nope. Can you make... It'll be immobile. treating those as just a goal and not as spots that I can also use. Now I get it. Okay. Clearly, I want to send my orders to the Pushmaster 5000. Wait. Nope. Nope. This one's the worst one to fill. For a good reason. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Yes. Just let the Pushmaster work. Pushmaster 5000 did just what I told it to and lined up all the crates. Now we can reach the top. We just need to climb those crates over by the fence. Let's climb those crates over by the fence. They walked slowly past the row of crates until they came to the coffin. They stopped and nodded to one another, and Junpei put his hand on the lid of the coffin. Mummy? Huh? Just kidding. He smirked heartily at his own joke. Junpei grumbled and shook his head. Whatever, just open it. Junpei resisted the urge to remind Santa that he would have had it open a long time ago if Santa hadn't interrupted, and quickly threw off the lid of the coffin. They peered inside. Contrary to what they'd expected, the inside of the coffin was quite large. It was mostly empty, but not completely so. Laying on the bottom was a rusty key, and next to the key, it's a gun. Yeah, a revolver. It looks pretty old. I wonder if this is a replica? Junpei reached down slowly and cautiously picked up the revolver. In his hand, it felt heavy. He checked the cylinder. There were 6 bullets. He'd never seen a real gun or even a real bullet before. He couldn't tell if these were real or not. The barrel was rifled and nothing seemed to be blocking it. As Ace had said, the gun was a very old one. However, it appeared to have been well maintained. If it was a real gun, Junpei thought it would most likely function perfectly. If it was real. Holding the gun made Junpei feel unpleasant. Carefully, he placed it back in the coffin. You're not gonna take it? Of course not. All something like this is gonna do is cause more trouble. A powerful weapon that gives one person a huge advantage. Something like that would be way too dangerous to have around. We're in enough danger already. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Maybe. Maybe Zero put this gun here hoping that something like that might happen. In other words, maybe he put it here to make us fight each other. In that case, we should most certainly leave it here. I, for one, have no desire to let Zero control me. The others nodded. They had no desire to be under Zero's control either. Okay, we've got that figured out, but you aren't going to leave that key in there, are you? Yeah, of course I'm not. Junpei picked up the rusty key and slid the top of the coffin back into place, the gun where they had found it. Key for a big old door. Back. That big old door. Let's just put this key in here, and yes, sounds like that did it. Yay! Looks like it's open, Jumpy. I see. This key should open this door. Hey, what are you waiting for? Let's go. I mean, nothing. I want to open that door. Get the fucking chair. The hallway that left the cargo room headed straight toward the stern. Junpei and the other 3 proceeded down it, silently. Some distance along it, a large room opened up on the left-hand side. It looked familiar. An iron grate covered each of the elevators. Junpei and his companions drew to a stop and began to discuss what their next move should be. We've seen this elevator before. We got off the one on the left just a little while ago. Then we went through the number 6 door, and that took us to the engine room. Yes, and after that we passed through the cargo room. And now we're back here. In other words, we made a loop. We're back where we started. Junpei approached the elevator. Gently, he pushed the triangular button on the wall next to it. A moment passed. The elevator door opened. And shut. Pushing the button had apparently restored power to the elevator. The elevator was now functional. What do we do? Should we return to C deck? No, this hallway keeps going. Even if we do end up going back, I think we should see what's down there first. I agree. Let's go. Their decision made, Junpei and his companions left the elevators behind and continued down the hallway. Sometime later, Santa, who had been walking several paces in front of the rest, suddenly stopped. Set in the wall in front of him was a door. So far as Junpei could see, there was no other way to proceed. It was the door or nothing. All right, let's open it. Junpei took a deep breath, readied himself, then grabbed the doorknob and pulled the door open. I'm terrified right now. He paused for a moment, then stepped through into the room. And there he saw the number that had hung over their heads since they'd woken up. 9. Like the numbers on every other door, this one too was a rough shape made of red paint. Its door was set into the back wall of the room. Junpei leapt toward it with a sudden burst of hopeful energy. It was a large double door, heavy and full of solemn importance. He grabbed hold of the door handle and shook. Nothing. But he hadn't expected it to open. The red sat on the wall next to the door. Its screen read vacant. Finally, they'd found it. Junpei felt himself overwhelmed by a torrent of emotion. At last, they'd found the exit, but cold gripped his heart, and he knew all too well why. As he stood frozen, unsure of what to think or feel. Jumpy, look behind you. He spun around and couldn't believe what he saw. It was a door with the number 9 written across it. Skip Town? This is not Skip Town. This is something new. Was there a second door? Why? Junpei's voice was barely audible even to himself. He stumbled toward the second door as if somehow compelled. It was a small, single door. It sat in the starboard corner of the room on the same wall as the door they'd entered from, but in the opposite corner. 9. There was no mistaking it. Red sat on the wall next to this door as well. Junpei shook the door handle pointlessly and muttered to himself. Why the hell are there 2 doors? It was Santa who answered. There were always 2 doors. Just think about it. Zero never said there's only one door with 9 on it. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Of course, we just assumed that there was only one. After all, why would there be more than one? Oh man. Jeez. Junpei was stunned, which was why he was getting so vulgar. Zero's trick had taken him completely by surprise. There were 2 doors. That meant that all 9 people who had met at the central staircase could escape and leave no one behind. Now the reason for the bracelet numbers being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 was clear. Divided in 2, the digital route for both teams would be 9. Some examples. Second example. There were many other workable combinations, but they all ended the same way, with a digital root of 9, which means... I'm going to make this implication in case the game does not. But that means that no one was supposed to die. What did that mean? I'm hoping that's what it means. The answer was quite simple. From the very beginning, the nonary game was designed to save all 9 people. Zero hadn't been lying. Zero had never said there is only one door, but anyone who'd found themselves in the game would have assumed that was the case. Fights would have broken out. One team would likely betray or deceive the other. Someone might be hurt. someone might get killed. But eventually, they would reach the room Junpei now found himself in and realize the pointlessness of whatever violence they'd visited upon each other. There were 2 doors. No need to kill each other. They'd understand and be appalled, overwhelmed with guilt at what they'd done. Perhaps that was the purpose of the game. That was how the nonary game was meant to be played. Fortunately, they hadn't started to fight one another, at least not yet. But if one misstep was made, if the wrong mistakes happened, the stakes would rise and the noose would tighten. The thought of it sent a chill down his spine. So, what are we gonna do, Junpei? A voice broke through Junpei's frantic thoughts. Santa's voice. It brought Junpei back to his senses. No use worrying about the future. He needed to figure out what they were going to do next. There were 4 people in the room. Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June. Their bracelet numbers were 1, 3, 5, and 6. Digital root would be 6. In other words, the 4 of them couldn't open a door with the number 9. But what if there were only 3? Could door 9 be opened with 3 of them? It took him no time at all to determine the answer, because he's been paying attention this whole time. There was only one combination of 3 people that would give a digital root of 9. 1, 3, and 5. That would mean... No. We gotta go back. That wasn't a possibility he was willing to consider. Santa and Ace agreed. Yep, I agree. We cannot leave June behind. Junpei let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Are you sure? I don't mind staying. June's body betrayed her true feelings. Her eyes were wet with the beginnings of tears and her legs shook. It's okay. There's no way we'd leave you behind. Santa had said what Junpei had known the moment the moment he realized which 3 people could go through the door. Besides, I'd rather drown at the bottom of the ocean than escape with this sausage fest. Maybe I'll get to go to Atlanta. Are you sure you don't mean Atlantis? Oh, right. Perhaps it was the sudden reassurance that no one wanted to leave June behind, but Junpei laughed harder than he had in some time. Santa and Ace smiled. You guys. June blinked tears from her eyes and bit her lip. She didn't seem to know what else to say. Very well. Best we head back to C deck then. We should be able to take the elevator we passed earlier. Perhaps Clover, 7, and Lotus will have returned from door 1. Even as Ace spoke, they knew finding the others wouldn't improve the situation. There was no way they could be split into teams that could both go through the doors. Ace knew it. They all knew it. But there was nothing else they could do. They would find the other 3 and search for another solution. All right, let's go. Ace looked at all 3 of them, then turned and headed through the door. Santa and June followed. Junpei started toward the door, then stopped. He'd been too busy with other concerns to notice the room itself. It didn't seem terribly important now, but what exactly was it? Are we in Skip Town? We're not in Skip Town. Junpei looked around the room for the first time, noticing the things that weren't doors with 9s on them. A red carpet ran between 2 columns of wooden benches that ran the length of the room. The carpet began at the large set of double doors and ran toward the bow. Toward. Junpei wasn't sure. Was it an altar, perhaps? There was a small rectangular alcove at the end of the carpet, and inside the alcove was a raised platform. Resting on top of the platform was a coffin. A coffin? A coffin. What on earth was a coffin doing in a place like that? But before Junpei had time to answer that question... Hey, Junpei! The hell are you doing? Let's move! Santa's voice echoed in from the hall outside. Right, okay. I'll be right there. Junpei turned on his heel and left the quiet, somber room. What? For those not still preoccupied this, microphone, if you're not still preoccupied by this, there was a knocking sound, presumably from inside that coffin. They took the elevator up to C deck. Once there, they headed back toward the main hall and the central staircase. It didn't take them long. Junpei found Seven and Lotus waiting for them. They didn't look happy. We've got a problem. Clover is gone. Junpei and his three companions looked at one another. He turned back to Seven and Lotus. What do you mean, gone? Santa, Ace, and June had their own questions to ask. When? Why? You two went into door 1 with Clover, didn't you? Seven and Lotus responded as best they could. Yeah, we went through the door together. But Clover barely spoke to us. She just did her own thing the whole time. There were 4 rooms on the other side of door 1. She wouldn't let us into the 4th room. She just said, I'll take care of this one, and shut the door. She must have blocked it with something on the other side. We waited for a while, but Clover didn't come out. We called for her, but she didn't answer. So I kicked down the door and we went into the room. But... it was empty. Clover wasn't there. There was a door on the other wall, and it was open. We figure she opened the door and left by herself. We ran after her, of course, but, well, obviously we didn't find her. We figured that much out. Clover's gone. Junpei thought for a moment. When did this happen? We got here just before you. You certainly have excellent timing. So you haven't searched anywhere other than near the staircase? No, we haven't. Finally, Ace spoke. His voice had an edge of resolve and concern. Very well, then. We'd best separate and look for Clover. We haven't much time left. Let's begin. There were quick nods all around, and the 6 remaining players spread out. Junpei and June ran into the large hospital room together. Quickly as they could, they searched around and under the beds and in the corners. She's not here. No, she isn't. Alright, just in case, we should go take a look in the shower room. The shower room? That's where her brother is. She might have gone to see him. June bit her lip. She knew, as Junpei did, that there was only one thing to see in the shower room, and it wasn't pleasant. Well, we might as well check, right? Let's go. There was a screwdriver stuck between the door and the frame. Junpei and June slipped through the door, moved down the hallway, and stepped into the shower room. No luck. Yeah, I don't think she's here. June's voice was faint as she placed her hands over her mouth. Her face looked a little green. The stench in the room was almost unbearable. It had grown far more unpleasant since their last visit. If Junpei had eaten a lunch, he would have had difficulty retaining it. He wanted to leave the room as soon as possible, but he had to be sure. And the only way to be sure was to check the other side of the divider. Wait here. June offered no resistance and nodded weakly to Junpei as he headed around the divider. He stopped at the corner and turned his head. Ugh. As he'd expected, Clover was nowhere to be seen. The only thing on the other side of the divider was a dead body, lying in a reddish-brown puddle of dry and drying blood. There are many ways a man can die, but this... The skull was shattered and the head little more than a pulpy mass of brain, bone, and viscera. The left arm was hideously twisted into a horrific alien shape, the bright white of the ulna shining through the remains of skin and muscle. Huh? Wait. Bright white, ulna, bones. The pieces fell into place. Junpei remembered something Clover had told him in the laboratory. My brother's left arm is, it's not like a normal person's arm. The accident hurt him really bad. To save him, they had to cut off his arm. Of course. Of course. Why hadn't he realized it earlier? Clover had told Junpei that Snake's left arm was prosthetic, but the left arm of the corpse behind the divider was quite clearly a real human arm, or at least it had been once. That meant the corpse... She realized it herself in another one of these. Junpei and June headed back toward the large hospital room. They stepped through the door and out of the shower room. Down the hallway they went, searching for Clover in every corner. They had reached the stairs when 7 appeared, breathless and yelling. Junpei, June, where were you guys? He looked pale and his face was drawn. Something terrible had happened. Junpei's breath caught in his throat. Did something happen? 7 drew a shaking hand across his face and gulped down a breath of air. Clover is dead. I found her in the first-class bathroom. Huh? All sound ceased for Junpei. The world was an empty, muffled expanse. Then he began to hear his own breathing. June's mouth moved, but he heard nothing. She tried once more, and then her energy was gone, and she collapsed against the wall. He could have helped her, but he hadn't, and now she was dead. So he stood there, frozen in place. Clover. Why? Why had this happened? He forced his body to move. Each step felt like another nail pounded into his heart. Finally, he was in front of her. He knelt and placed 3 fingers against Clover's neck. No pulse, no breath. But she was still warm and her eyes were closed peacefully. It would have been easy to think she was asleep. Easy, that is, were it not for the slowly expanding puddle of blood beneath her. He traced its source to her back, a gash just beneath her shoulder blade. Was the weapon a knife, perhaps? If it was a knife, the killer had taken it when they left. When he closed his eyes, he saw Clover's smile. Her innocent smile, her energy. He would never see her smile again. He could have done something. He could have helped her. His stomach twisted itself into a sickening knot. Junpei lifted a limp June from the floor and carried her from the bathroom. Are you all right? It was a foolish question, and he knew it. Yes, I think so. Her voice was weak. The fever had gone down, but the emotional scars she'd received were not likely to recede as quickly. Junpei laid his hand on her shoulder, and they walked back to the bedroom. You should get some rest. He lowered June until she was sitting against the bed. She nodded once and stared at the floor. There were 4 others in the room: Ace, Lotus, Santa, and 7. They all stared at nothing, their faces drawn and tired. After a while, They drifted into the bathroom to see Clover's corpse for themselves. Once everyone was back in the bedroom, Junpei walked slowly to the center of it and looked around as the slumped figures gathered there. Who was the first to find the body? Me. Seven spoke from behind Junpei. He turned around. Seven's hand was up. Why'd you come to this room? To look for Clover. Why else? I found her body in the bathroom. As soon as I did, I ran outside. I got to the top of the stairs, by the casino, and yelled as loud as I could. Hey guys, I found her, but it's bad. She's in the bathroom, in the first-class cabin. Come quick. Or something like that. Then I went back to the bathroom. Ace, Santa, and Lotus showed up real soon after that. But I guess you two hadn't heard me or something because you didn't show. So I took off down the stairs to look for you. After that, you know the rest, right? Junpei nodded and closed his eyes. There was one more thing he needed to ask. Seven, there's one more thing I'm worried about. What's that? When we finished all the puzzles in this room and got the door open, you stuck one of those plates in between the door and the frame, right? Why did you do that? Come on, didn't I already tell you that? I did it so that the door wouldn't lock. So we could come back to this room. Oh! You think I did it? Well, I don't know. That kind of depends on what you say next, doesn't it? Seven sighed and shook his head. Follow me. There were two doors standing next to one another. He opened the one on the right. Behind the door was a closet. Seven stepped inside. He stood in front of one of the shelves that filled it and gestured toward a small box. The box was a small metal cube. He looked at Junpei. This is the reason. This safe. We couldn't open it when we were getting through this room. I figured there might be something pretty important in it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Besides, I figured eventually we might figure out what the numbers are on the safe. And if we did, I didn't want to screw around with door 5 again. So I put that plate in the exit door so we could get back in that way. Get it now? Junpei nodded and looked at the safe. He grabbed the handle and shook it. Nothing happened. It was as locked as it had been when Seven found it. There was one change, however. Just underneath the safe was a pile of fine, reddish-brown powder. Rust. Junpei stared at it for a moment. Had someone opened the safe, dislodging the rust? Junpei left the closet. Seven followed him back to the bedroom. It was cold and quiet. No one spoke. They sat, frozen in place by shock and grief and fatigue. The room felt tiny and oppressive, and the thick metallic smell of blood filled the room. Junpei turned and headed for the living room. Anything to get out of there. Was there some other clue, perhaps? Anything that might lead him to whoever had stabbed Clover. He took his time and examined the room carefully. His eyes caught on the door. The door that led to the passageway of door number 5. Behind that door was the dead body of the 9th man. Maybe I should have another look at it, just in case. Quietly, he pushed open the door. The smell hit him like a blow to the face. His lungs contracted, unwilling to inhale such fetid air. Acid boiled up from the base of his stomach, churning what little food was there into a violent froth. It was too much for him, and he vomited. A thin stream of yellow water and bile spattered onto the floor. Gross. He wiped his mouth weakly and stared at the dead body. Chunks of torn flesh lay in an arc around the body. What remained of its intestines had slid out onto the floor. The pool of blood that framed it was half dry, but so thick that it had taken on a texture not unlike that of an egg yolk prepared sunny side up. On the floor next to the broken mass of the man's head lay his glasses, cracks spidering across the lenses. The bloodstains near them had already dried, like scabs on the floor. That was when he noticed. It's gone. His bracelet. It's gone. It had been there when Junpei had gone through door 5 before. He was sure of it, right next to the glasses. But now, it was gone. The number 9 bracelet was gone. But why? Had someone taken it? He was turning it over and over in his mind when he heard 7's voice. Huh? Where'd Junpei go? It had drifted out to him from the living room. Junpei walked slowly out of the hallway. Oh, there you are. Were you looking for something in the hallway? 7 looked up as Junpei entered the room. Did you find something? He thought for a moment before he responded. No, nothing. Technically, it wasn't a lie. He hadn't found anything. In a way, in fact, that was the problem. Something he'd expected to find hadn't been there, the 9th man's bracelet. What's up? Well, I wanted you to take a look at something. What is it? 7 led Junpei back to the bathroom. As Clover's corpse came into view, he felt his heart flip and then fall to the bottom of his stomach. Something between a sigh and a groan escaped his lips. What was it you wanted to show me? His voice was hollow and empty. I searched Clover's body again. I found this. As he spoke, he moved around Clover's head. Then he knelt down and flipped open her right hand. What? She was holding a piece of paper. I haven't actually looked at it yet. Didn't want to disturb the crime scene, you know. Basic stuff. Well, I did borrow one thing. He wasn't sure what that meant, but it likely didn't matter. The paper was more important. He picked it up and carefully opened it. There were 2 sentences written on it. Truth had gone, and truth had gone. And now, truth is asleep in the darkness of the sinister hand. What is this? Some kind of secret code? 7 peered over Junpei's shoulder at the note. Junpei stepped away from Clover's body and into the living room. He began to pace, attempting to decode the note. The first clue was likely the phrase, sinister hand. Sinister hand means... This is a thing that I actually know, and it's really interesting. The left hand. Sinister was a term used in heraldry that meant to the left of the bearer of the coat of arms. The left hand. The left hand. What did the left hand mean? Junpei looked at his own left arm, at the bracelet on his wrist. Did the darkness of the sinister hand have something to do with the bracelet? He examined the bracelet closely. There were 2 protrusions on either side of the face, the left and right sides of the face. Left and right. Left and right. Right and left. Truth is gone. Truth. Gone. It sounded funny. What did it mean? Truth. Gone. Maybe those 2 words. What else could they mean? What else could gone and truth mean? Truth, of course, meant something that was correct, something that was fact, in other words. Something that was right. It would follow then that gone meant left. After all, after someone left, they were gone. In this case, however, they clearly referred to their directional homonyms. So that means truth is right, gone is left. That seemed to make sense. Junpei looked at the bracelet again. At the two protrusions on the left and right of the base. Junpei pressed them in the following order. Truth had gone, truth had gone, truth had gone. I do not want to blow this. I'm going to save the game right now. I refuse to believe that I am wrong, but just as likely, I refuse to do all of this again. Truth gone, true gone, true gone. And then one after another, 8 numbers flashed on, then off of the face of Junpei's bracelet. He checked one more time to be sure. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Huh? Hey, what are those numbers? Junpei didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He had no idea what they were either. Besides, he was sure he would forget the numbers in the order they came in if he said anything. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Muttering the numbers to himself over and over, Junpei headed toward the bedroom. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Before long, he found himself in front of the safe again. Its lock was the only device he could think of that required a sequence of numbers such as the ones he'd just discovered. Besides, someone had opened the safe at least once already. Had Clover come to the bedroom to open it? 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Junpei slowly dialed in the numbers on the bracelet had given him. 1 to the right, 4 to the left, 3 to the right, 8 to the left, 3 to the right, 4 to the left, 2 to the right, 1 to the left. Finished. Junpei heard the small telltale sound of a lock opening. He grabbed the handle, took a deep breath, and pulled it up. Inside was a piece of paper. It was roughly the same size as the one Clover had been holding. Junpei picked it up. This is what it said. Fact number 1. The nonary game was played once before 9 years ago. Fact number 2. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. Fact number 3. It was planned by the following 4 people. Cradle Pharmaceuticals CEO, Gentaro Hongo. Cradle Pharmaceutical Chief of Staff, Nagisa Nijisaki. Cradle Pharmaceutical R&D Supervisor, Teruaki Kubota. Majority shareholder in Cradle Pharmaceutical, Kagechika Usashido. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved, I now state the truth. 0. Junpei left the closet. There were 5 people waiting for him in the bedroom. Ace, Lotus, Santa, 7, and June. He looked at each one of them in turn, then slowly placed his hands in the pocket of his vest. Sorry, but do you think you could all come with me? Come with you? I want all of you to go to the big hospital room. Why? There's something I want to be sure of. What do you want to be sure of? I want to know if the person I suspect is really the culprit. Wait, then you're saying... Yeah. I think I've got it figured out. I know who killed Snake and Clover. The atmosphere in the room changed. Grief was suddenly gone, replaced by a tension like a strap of leather stretched to its limit. 5 sets of eyes stared at Junpei. He pretended not to notice. Anyway, if you'd all please move to the big hospital room, I'll explain everything as soon as we get there. Then, almost as if on cue, the bell began to ring. They all heard it. It was the bell from the clock in the main staircase. The bell rang 5 times, then ceased. It was 5 o'clock. They had only an hour left. We don't have a lot of time left. Let's go. Slowly, one by one, they followed Junpei out of the bedroom. Actually, before we get started, I was hoping you could do something for me. Junpei stopped in front of door 3 and turned around. Ace, 7, and Lotus, could you please place your palms on the red? Huh? Why? We need to get to the shower room. Why don't we just... No, we're not going inside. Once you've authenticated, step away from the door. Why? Please just do it. Or perhaps you don't want to know who killed Snake and Clover. Junpei's implication was clear, and 7 understood perfectly. Fine. What about you, Ace, Lotus? Very well. Sure. Quickly, they pressed their palms onto the red. Once they had finished, they stepped away from the door as Junpei had instructed. 3 asterisks shone from the red's display panel. Junpei approached it and held his bracelet over the scanner. He made quite sure he didn't place his palm on it, and instead only brought his bracelet near it. The 4th asterisk appeared, just as Junpei had expected. It was possible to authenticate without placing one's palm on the red, so long as the bracelet was brought near it. Junpei pulled the lever down. Door 3 opened like a hungry mouth. 9 long seconds passed. And the door shut, unfed. Junpei walked slowly back to the others who were waiting some distance from the door, talking to one another. Santa and June had joined them as well. It looked as though they hadn't found a chance to break into conversation yet. As Junpei approached, they turned to look at him, curiosity plain on their faces. Before long, the other 3 did as well. Clearly, they were all expecting some answers. Thanks. I appreciate your cooperation. Clearly, they'd hoped for something more forthcoming. He continued. By the way, Ace, would you mind if I asked you something? What is it? Do you know who I am? What? What kind of question? Just answer it, please. Who am I? You're Junpei. Of course, who else would you be? Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. Actually, I'm Santa. What? Ace's voice was full of surprise, but was also tinged with confusion and fear. Everyone else looked nearly as surprised. Santa looked especially shocked to discover He was actually someone else. If he spoke, however, the trap would be exposed. Junpei quickly continued. The clothes I'm wearing I borrowed from Junpei, and the clothes he's wearing are mine. We had a little swap. That's ridiculous. Impossible. So you're saying I'm not Santa? Of course you aren't. Why? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? If you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. 1 plus 7 plus 8 plus 3 equals 19. 1 plus 9 would be 10. The digital root would be 1. But the 4 of us just opened door 3. You can't possibly be Santa. Your bracelet number isn't 3. It's 5. Right? Only then, when it was too late, did Ace realize his mistake. He set his jaw and glared at Junpei. You're exactly right. My bracelet number is 5. As he spoke, Junpei lifted his wrist up to show everyone the bright red 5 on his wrist. It's blue, actually. Sorry, Ace. I tricked you. Of course, I'm not really Santa. I'm Junpei. Who else could possibly think I was? It's obvious I'm not. To think I was, ridiculous. But I guess you couldn't see just how obvious it was. I asked you before, didn't I? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? And you answered, if you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened. Most people wouldn't say something like that. As their justification for why I'm not Santa, I mean. The first thing that would come to anyone else's mind wouldn't be the bracelet number. There'd only be one thing they'd say. One sentence. You don't have his face. Ace, you have prosopagnosia. Am I right? Junpei's voice was quiet and calm. He knew the truth. So did Ace. He could hear a sudden buzz of conversation from the others. Prosopagnosia, what's that? He heard Lotus begin to explain it to them. Ace glanced at them, then turned back toward Junpei and sighed. Sigh. Very well. I confess. I have prosopagnosia. I cannot differentiate human faces. Is that what this was about? You want to mock me for my disorder? No, not at all. I'm not making fun of you at all. In fact, I feel kind of bad for you. No, the reason I brought this up is that there's an excellent chance the person who killed Snake has prosopagnosia. Ace's face tightened, his eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Junpei leaned casually against the iron piping of one of the beds. I'll just come right out with it. I think it was you, Ace. You killed him. Junpei was suddenly very aware of 5 pairs of eyes on him. He had their undivided attention now. The room had grown very, very quiet. Junpei took a deep breath. That's ridiculous. What possible evidence do you... I have 3 pieces of evidence. The first, think back to a few hours ago. You made us argue over the 3 doors here in the big hospital room. There was no way all 7 people could go through them. Lotus suggested that we sacrifice one of us. Lotus looked away awkwardly. Junpei glanced at her and continued. Then you, Ace, said, I'll stay here. Why would you say something like that? It's pretty simple, really. You didn't want us to see the dead body in the shower room. You see, if Ace stayed behind, there were only 2 doors the rest of us could go through. Doors 7 and 8. There was no way we could get through door 3, the shower room. You knew that, didn't you, Ace? That's why you volunteered to stay behind. Come on now, I think that's going a bit far. I can understand if you're jealous of my bravery, but please don't devalue my actions. I only wanted to save the rest of you. Surely you can understand my altruism. Altruism, huh? Junpei stared off into the darkness at something very interesting and lazily began to dig a persistent bit of wax out of his ear. You already knew, didn't you? You knew that whichever doors we took, eventually we'd end up back in the big hospital room. What on earth are you saying? Of course I didn't know that. How could I have? Really? Yes. Bleeding was not something they'd heard from Ace before. Junpei pulled the piece of wax from his ear, glanced at it, and flicked it off into the darkness. Gross. Ah, well, that's cool. I've still got 2 more pieces of evidence that say you're the killer. The second is that, as I said earlier, you have prosopagnosia. Then you mean to imply that a person who can't distinguish human faces must be a bad person? Junpei, they call that prejudice. No, I'm not that stupid. Then why? Before I explain, I suppose there's something I should tell you. The corpse in the shower room, it's not Snake's. What? Ace's face went pale. The others looked confused as well. If the body wasn't Snake's. I didn't put it together right away, but there was something Clover told me. She said that Snake's left arm was prosthetic. He'd lost his real arm in an accident. But the body we saw in the shower room, let's call him Guy X. Guy X's left arm was definitely flesh and blood. In other words, Guy X couldn't possibly have been Snake. Oh God. No, that's impossible. Ace had started muttering deliriously to himself, shaking his head back and forth. Junpei was long past caring. Let's say, hypothetically, that the killer didn't have prosopagnosia. If that were the case, he would immediately realize that Guy X wasn't Snake. Even if the clothes were the same as Snake's, their faces would be completely different. It would have been obvious they were different people. And yet, they still killed him. Why? Why would they kill a stranger who'd only just shown up? On the other hand, if the killer did have prosopagnosia, it makes sense. They thought Guy X was Snake and killed him. Wait just a moment. Let's say you're right and I mistook Guy X for Snake. Even if I did, I would have had no motive to kill him. Why would I want to kill Snake? I can think of at least 2 motives. One, Snake knew about your past. If he ever revealed what he knew, that would have been really bad for you. You really didn't want that to happen. So to make sure Snake's mouth stayed shut, you killed him. 2. Snake had a grudge against you. You knew that, or at least you could have easily assumed he did. Even without exposing your identity, he was a threat to you. You never knew when you might be attacked. You couldn't ever let your guard down. Every moment was a moment he might try something. You didn't want that kind of danger hanging over you, so you... Hey, hold on a minute. For the first time since the beginning of Junpei's explanation, someone besides Ace spoke. What's the past that Ace wouldn't want us to know? Why did Snake have a grudge against him? Look at this. He handed Santa a small piece of paper. Santa squinted at the paper and began to read. The nonary game was played once before 9 years ago. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game. It was planned by the following 4 people. Cradle Pharmaceuticals CEO. Gentaro. What is this? Slowly, Santa looked up from the paper. His eyes met Junpei's. It's the message from Zero. It was in the safe in the first-class cabin. Then suddenly... Give me a break. Ace's face was red and shaking, and his voice was full of fury tinged with desperation. That paper is a lie. Someone is trying to frame me. Me? You said me, right? Junpei's eyes narrowed, and the trap began to close. Ace inhaled sharply, his eyes flicked off Junpei to anything else. Wouldn't that mean you're admitting you're Hongo, the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical? Or am I mistaken? It was as though a switch had been flipped. The color drained from Ace's face, and he realized what he'd done. His eyes went wide. Very well. I admit that much. I am certainly the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical, Gentaro Hongo. So what if I am? I don't know anything about this nonary game that supposedly took place 9 years ago. Everything on that scrap of paper is bullshit. Someone is trying to set me up, you see. First of all, Ace stammered as he tried desperately to work himself into a more tenable position. Junpei, you're claiming I did all this by myself. Think that over, alright? How could I have killed Snake all by myself? Not Snake. It was Gaiax. I don't care who it was. You said the killer put this other man into door 3, right? Yeah, maybe. Then I couldn't have possibly done that alone. I couldn't have opened door 3 with only myself and Gaiax. Nope. You could have. What? Ace's face was tight and his teeth were clenched. Junpei fixed him with a level stare. The trap was about to close. Actually, Ace, when you were unconscious, I took something from you. Remember when you were injected with that anesthetic and fell asleep in the big hospital room? Yeah, back then. I took this. Junpei put his hand into his pocket. No, you couldn't have. Ace's right hand moved. Junpei smiled. I got you, Ace. Your right hand there tells me all I needed to know. You want to tell me what you were so worried about? What's in your pocket? It's the number 9 bracelet, isn't it? Ace, Gaiax, and the 9th man's bracelet. That was all you needed to open door 3. 1 plus 2 plus 9. 1 plus 2 equals 3. That's how you killed Gaiax all by yourself, Ace. All you needed was the number 9 bracelet in your chest pocket. Ace lowered his hand from where it had stopped, halfway to his pocket. He looked down at the floor, his face hidden from Junpei. All he could see was the corner of Ace's mouth, twitching like a dying fish. You want to play innocent? That's fine by me. Go ahead. Tell me I don't have the bracelet if that's what you want to do. But if you could take off your coat and hand it to me, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll have to take it from you by force. Right, 7? Yeah. It'd be my pleasure. 7 cracked his knuckles with a sound like gunfire. Maniacal laughter. Ace roared with laughter. He threw his arms wide and his head back and laughed, filling the room with a sound that scarcely belonged there. Then it stopped. His arms came down, and his head dropped to look straight ahead at Junpei. Ugh. His face was flat and cold, devoid of any emotion. Well done, Junpei. As you so correctly deduced, I have the number 9 bracelet. I retrieved it while we were searching for the missing hardware for the Red. I left the room I was supposed to search and headed to the first-class cabin on B deck. His voice showed no emotion, no sense of remorse or interest. It was almost bored, as though he were reciting an especially dull corporate letter. My purpose was to obtain the number 9 bracelet. 9 is a potent ally in the nonary game. Adding 9 to any set of numbers won't alter the digital root. 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1, etc. As you can see, 9 is a very useful number here. With it, one can go anywhere with anyone. So I made for the first-class cabin to obtain it. Ace successfully acquired the number 9 bracelet. He also found an unexpected bonus, the knife the 9th man had been holding. He slipped both of them into his chest pocket and left as quickly as he'd come. He walked down the stairs and headed back to where he was supposed to be. That was when he met Gaiax and mistook him for Snake. Snake was on his way to the large hospital room and had not noticed Ace behind him. Ace made sure it stayed that way. He followed the man wearing Snake's clothes to door 3. When the man stopped, he walked up behind him quietly and called out, "Snake?" The man turned to look at Ace. He said nothing, no words come out of his half-open mouth. He seemed dazed somehow, almost like a man half asleep. Perhaps he had been drugged? It didn't matter to Ace. Ace was certain the man was Snake. He knew Snake had been a part of the nonary game 9 years before. Snake hadn't recognized Ace immediately, but he was blind. That much made sense. Why then hadn't Snake said anything to him? Surely he hadn't forgotten what had happened to him in the nonary game, but not once had he attempted to confront Ace. Perhaps his lack of sight had prevented him from recognizing Ace, or perhaps Snake had conspired with Zero to deceive Ace. In either event, he was a threat, and it was better to deal with him sooner rather than later. Ace's mind was made up. He moved. He held the number 9 bracelet over the red. He waved his own bracelet in front of the red, and finally grabbed Snake's arm and shoved his hand against the scanner panel. The door opened. Ace threw the man through it. 9 seconds later, the door shut. 81 seconds passed. The man inside the door passed away. After that, I returned to my post as though nothing had happened. After conducting my own search, I returned to the large hospital room when the 1 a.m. bell rang. Ace's eyes were cold and his cheeks were hollow and pallid. When he spoke, only his lips and tongue moved. The rest of his face was eerily silent. Still, I mean. Junpei glared at Ace. He took a deep breath and thought about the next question he had to ask. He didn't want to. He knew what the answer would be. He just didn't want to hear it. Junpei swallowed, then spoke. But first, Jury took a drink. Ace, did you kill Clover? Yes. Why? Why did you kill her? She was Snake's sister. It was possible he had told her something dangerous. Additionally, she had gone through door 1. It seemed likely she might have found it. Found what? Why don't you go through door 1 yourself? Perhaps it's hidden somewhere. Seven and Lotus interrupted. Yeah, but Lotus and I went through door 1 too. We didn't see anything suspicious. Yes, I thought as much after I heard your report at the central stairs. I doubt the two of you could find it. Huh? But perhaps Clover was different. Perhaps she had found it. I was therefore desperate to find her. And at last, I did, in the first-class cabin. I spoke very calmly. Did you see it? See what? Don't act as if you don't understand. You were in the captain's quarters, weren't you? Huh? What are you talking about? Very well. By the way, what are you doing here, Clover? What? Nothing. There's blood on your shoes. It looks fresh. Did you go take a look at the 9th man's corpse? I see. Your silence suggests that you noticed. You saw something, didn't you? You saw that his bracelet was gone. Clover ran. She made for the exit, but Ace stood in her way. You aren't going anywhere. He caught her by the collar as she passed and threw her to the floor hard. She leapt back up and darted past him into the hallway. Ace followed at a run. He was faster. That was how I killed Clover. His face hadn't changed. If he felt guilt or remorse or anything one might feel after taking the life of another human being, it didn't show. You son of a bitch. Seven's whole body trembled with rage, and his voice rumbled with hate. Santa's eyes were bloodthirsty, and Lotus and June's faces were distorted by anger and hatred. Ace looked at them and smiled. It was a cold, cruel thing with no humor in it. He shook his head and sighed. I admit it. I've lost. I have lost completely and utterly. But don't misunderstand, Junpei. I didn't lose to you. I lost to Zero, not you. I'm rather disgusted with myself for falling into such a simple trap. And it was a trap, make no mistake. I was trapped and manipulated by Zero. The man I killed in the shower room, if he wasn't Snake, then I have no idea who he was. But he was wearing Snake's clothes, and that was no coincidence. He had also been injected with something that reduced his cognition and prevented him from identifying himself or resisting me. And we can't forget the components that were removed from the red before we arrived. I have no doubt that Zero planned all of this. Zero made sure I would kill that man. It follows, of course, that Zero knew everything I would do. That I would try to take the number 9 bracelet. That I would try to kill Snake. Everything. Suddenly, Junpei remembered the paper he'd found in the safe. He remembered the last words Zero had written on it. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved, I now state the truth. Zero. And he remembered other words, words he'd heard from Clover. I think Zero is one of us. One by one, Junpei looked at the 5 people standing in front of him. Ace, Santa, June, 7, Lotus. Zero is one of us. One of us, one of us, one of us. No. Junpei paused. There was one more person. Snake. It was clear now that the man who died in the shower room was not Snake. That meant that Snake was almost certainly still alive. Perhaps Snake was Zero. Perhaps Snake had made Guy X wear his clothes so that he would appear to be dead. Where was Snake now? Perhaps he was somewhere laughing at them. If he was Zero, surely he had lied about many other things. Was he watching them? Well, I believe I've finished with my confession. Why don't we get moving? He sounded as if he'd just finished doing nothing more exciting than describing the weather. For Santa, it was the last straw. What the hell is this shit? You aren't going anywhere, you son of a bitch. We're gonna leave your ass here to rot. Why? Because I killed Clover? That's ridiculous. Why are you so upset that I killed the little bitch? She was nothing to you. A stranger you only met a few hours ago. Am I wrong? You bastard! 7 roared and lifted a fist that would likely have shattered Ace's jaw, but someone else was faster. It was Lotus. She stepped toward Ace, raised a fist of her own, and drove it straight into his nose. Huh. You've got some fire, don't you? I confess, I rather like a tough woman. He sniffed and wiped a small trickle of blood from his nose with a raised eyebrow. Well, maybe you'd like another one then. Before that, let me give you one of my own. Huh? Lotus scarcely had time to blink. Ace snaked his arm around her and pulled Lotus's back up against him. In the same motion, he reached into his coat pocket. It was a gun. The revolver. Almost lazily, he tilted it to point at Lotus's head. If any of you so much as blink, I won't hesitate to pull this trigger. I've already killed 2... No. 3 people. Don't think I'm not ready to make it 4. 3 people? What do you mean? Very well. Let me take this opportunity to illuminate you. The person who killed the 9th man was me. Although I suppose to be more accurate, I encouraged him to get himself killed. While we were examining the main staircase, he came to me and told me his name. I recognized it as once. I gave him a little push. Just a little white lie. It seems the settings for the dead were altered. Now it only requires a single person to deactivate the detonator in the bracelet. Investigate what's beyond door 5. We'll meet again later. Okay. Have a good one, guys. I'm going off ahead now. Well then. Shit! Why isn't it stopping? God damn it. You lied. Open the door, please. I'm begging you. Help me. Please get me out of here. Get me out of here. There's no time left. Listen, I was lied to. He lied to me. He put me in here. It was him. He killed me. It was him. Scream. I'm gonna have to do some editing.